Today we'll discuss how to read texts and answer the accompanying questions. I'll show you my approach to a text. Before I actually do any reading of the text itself, I start by reading the title, looking at the writers, any pictures, the source and, if there are any, subheadings. This helps me establish the topic of the text and activates previous knowledge of the subject, which can help me in understanding the text better. In this case, I think the text will deal with environmental problems, specifically in Lebanon. Then I read the first question. This question specifically asks for information from the first paragraph. I highlight this part of the text just to keep my attention focused on the part of the text that is absolutely necessary for this question, and I follow this up by reading the required bit of text.
There was once a nice sea view at the Al Jazeera Beach Club, and umbrellas of palm fronds sticking from the sand are reminders of nicer days. Nowadays, the place is surrounded by an ever-growing garbage dump. Just up the shoreline, Mohammed Dradi, who has been fishing the waters of the Mediterranean off Beirut for 20 years, said the trash had driven even the fish away. All over the world, there are solutions for this, but not here, he said.
Having read this, I go back to the question and read through the 4 options given. For answer A, I see that there is no mention of the government in the text. For B, I do think that the text deals with the past and present situations. For C, I do notice that an opinion is given in this text, but it's by somebody other than the writers of the text. And for answer D, I do not see anything in the text about harming the global environment, only the local environment. My answer therefore would be B. I can support this with 2 phrases from the text. There was once a nice sea view, and nowadays the place is surrounded by an ever-growing garbage dump. There are 2 words that signal time, once and nowadays, past and present. I then continue with the second question for this text, which is about paragraph 2 and 3. Again, I highlight the part of the text that I need for this question. I follow this up by reading the required bit of text.
Last year, the municipality opened the Costa Brava landfill on the shoreline, not far from Beirut's Rafik Hariri International Airport. And so for many visitors to Beirut, a city whose shabby chic architecture, great cuisine, and French colonial influences are otherwise enchanting, the first thing to greet them was a strong whiff of garbage. The landfill also attracted birds, lots of them, not just the seagulls that normally fly around the coast, but others on migratory patterns from Europe and North Africa. In other words, wrote one local blogger, a giant free Lebanese restaurant for birds. More seriously, this posed a problem to civil aviation. When an airliner hit a bird this month, Lebanon's trash problem suddenly became a matter of aviation safety.
Having read this, I go back to the 2 statements in the second question. 1. De aantrekkelijkheid van Beirut voor toeristen wordt aangetast. I believe that this should be answered with well, as I find a bit of text in the second paragraph that supports this statement. So for many visitors to Beirut, a city whose shabby chic architecture, great cuisine and French colonial influences are otherwise enchanting, the first thing to greet them was a strong whiff of garbage. The first bit of this line indicates that Beirut is appealing, whereas in the second part, it deals with the smell of the garbage, which is not appealing. Signaling words in this are otherwise enchanting. Otherwise indicates a contradiction. Therefore, the garbage and its smell influence the appeal of Beirut. 2. Vogels worden ziek omdat ze daar ongezonde etensresten vinden. I believe that this should be answered with niet, as there is no evidence in the text to support it. The only thing said about birds in paragraph 3 is that they are a hazard for aviation, so for airplanes. Answering this question brings me to the third question, which I read. It starts with a quote from paragraph 5, so I highlight that specific section of the text. I follow this up by reading the paragraph.
The garbage problem has long been a symbol of a failure of Lebanese politics. one that activists say has its roots in the time shortly after the country's civil war, which ended in 1990. Soon after the war ended, the government set up a trash collection company called Suklin that was connected to political parties and, over the years, became a vehicle for corruption, activists say. This the possibility of other solutions, like recycling. And in a country as small and densely populated as Lebanon, it has been hard to find enough space for landfills.
Reading the question and the multiple choice options, I notice that the tone of A is positive, the tone of B is positive, the tone of C is positive, whereas the tone of D is negative. Seeing as the text is negative about the way the problem is dealt with, I would expect the answer to be D. I can support this with a sentence from the text, soon after up to and including for corruption. The fact that the changes made corruption possible is not positive. I do still want to check whether all the other answers are truly incorrect. When I look at answer A, unexpected growth is not mentioned in the text. And for B, I can't find anything about infrastructure in the text. And for C, there is no mention of motivation in the text. This makes me stick to my first thought, and therefore I go with answer D. The next question requires me to fill the gap in the text. Looking at the options, I notice that A and C are opposites. This makes me believe that one of these should be the correct answer. I also see that A is negative, B is positive, C is positive, and D is neutral in tone. I then go on to read the bit of text that is necessary.
This the possibility of other solutions, like recycling. And in a country as small and densely populated as Lebanon, it has been hard to find enough space for landfills.
Just like the other paragraphs, the tone of voice in this paragraph is negative. This becomes clear from the final part of the sentence where it says that it has been hard to find enough space for landfills. This makes me decide to choose for option A. The final question is about paragraph 6, so I highlight the text. After reading the question, I read the paragraph.
Habib Bata, the founder of the news website Beirut Report, said the problems with garbage went back to the decision at the end of the war to privatize trash collection. He said that Lebanon offered a lesson to other post-war societies on the dangers of rushing into privatization too fast, and that he often wished he could bring free market advocates to Lebanon for a field trip to see what can happen in the absence of strong government regulations. Public services across the board, not just trash collection, have long suffered in Lebanon, he said, forcing political leaders to confront a difficult question. What do you fix first? The water? The garbage? The internet?
Reading the options again, I don't believe that A is the answer, as Bata doesn't advise the government. I think that B is a possible answer. I think that C is not the answer because I did not read that the garbage issue is now a top priority. Nor do I think that D is the answer, as Bata is against involving commercial stakeholders, which becomes clear from the text as it speaks about the dangers of rushing into privatization too fast. I can support B with a phrase from the text, forcing political leaders to confront a difficult question. What do you want to fix first? The water, the garbage, the internet? The correct answers are often found in signaling words or colons, and in this particular phrase we find a colon. The questions deal with essential facilities, water, correct way of garbage disposal, and access to the internet. I decide to choose answer B. Checking my answers, I find that I've answered all of them correctly. If I hadn't, my next step would be to circle all of the correct answers to find the phrases in the text that would support this answer, as doing this would help me further along in the development of my reading skills. Now you try.